I went from being the number one actress on television in those desired demographics to now I couldn't.
Nothing feels more glorious than becoming a legend, and nothing hurts more than being right on the edge of becoming one only to lose it all. The names on today's list were not unknown actors. They were once some of the biggest TV stars in America, making hundreds of thousands of dollars per episode, winning Emmys while they were still teenagers. But then, everything changed. What happened? One actress got pregnant right when her career was exploding, and Hollywood pretty much turned its back on her. One sitcom star asked for the salary she deserved and then got turned into the guilty one. One child star became too famous, so famous, that America never really allowed them to grow up. Let's look at 10 names who almost became legends of American television and see just how fast Hollywood can lift someone to the top and just how painfully it can pull them back down. Number 10. Dana Plato. Maybe this is the most tragic name on today's list because Dana Plato did not just lose the chance to become a television legend, she also lost the chance to live like a normal person. If you grew up with American TV in the late 70s and early 80s, that face will definitely pull you back to a very different time. Dana Plato was Kimberly Drummond on Different Strokes, the blonde daughter living in that Park Avenue apartment who drove American men crazy. Dana was only 14 at the time, and Dana was not some kid who just happened to get picked. She had been acting since she was very young, had appeared in more than 100 television commercials, then stepped into a sitcom that ran for 8 seasons and 189 episodes. She was also nominated for a Young Artist Award for playing Kimberly. In other words, she had the craft, the audience, the momentum, and a path toward becoming a long-term television actress. But in 1984, everything collapsed. Dana got pregnant when she was about 20, right at the height of her beauty and fame. After that, she was removed from Different Strokes as a main cast member. At first, it just sounds like a casting change. But for a young woman playing the nice daughter on an early 80s family sitcom, it was almost a career death sentence. Hollywood can forgive men for a lot of things: affairs, drugs, reckless living, wild impulses that get called artistic temperament. But for a young woman in a family sitcom, all she has to do is grow up in the wrong way compared with the image the network is selling, and the door can slam shut right in her face. After that blow, Dana never got back on the old track. There were a few small roles, a few B-level projects, a few attempts to return, but America no longer looked at her as Kimberly. By the early 90s, the name Dana Plato appeared in the papers not because of a new role, but because of the video store robbery in Las Vegas in 1991, then the forged Valium prescription case in 1992. One day before she died, Dana appeared on The Howard Stern Show. She tried to say she was sober, that she was doing fine. And then she died in 1999 at only 34. Maybe she made a lot of wrong choices. But I still wonder if 1984 had not taken that role away from her. That stability and that feeling that she still belonged. Somewhere would this story have ended at age 34? I'll let you think about that question. And now, let's move on to number 9 with a story that will make you just as angry. Number 9, Suzanne Somers. In 1980, Suzanne Somers walked into a salary negotiation. When she walked out, she had almost lost her sitcom career. And that is what keeps this story hot even today. Because depending on which side you look at it from, Suzanne was either a star asking for too much or one of the first women brave enough to state her value as an actual number. Before that, she was Chrissy Snow on Three's Company. If you grew up in the late 70s, not much needs to be explained. You know the appeal, the blonde hair, the bright smile, the innocence that was both funny and seductive. But do not misunderstand. Chrissy may have been ditzy on screen, but Suzanne in real life was not ditzy at all. Then when the show entered season 5, Suzanne wanted her salary raised from around $30,000 per episode to $150,000 per episode, equal to John Ritter. She also wanted a share of the show's profits. ABC did not accept it. The network only wanted to add about $5,000. After that, Chrissy was reduced to a few short phone call scenes at the end of episodes. Then Suzanne's contract was terminated. This is where the story becomes worth debating. If a male actor at the top of a sitcom had asked for that salary, would Hollywood have called him greedy? A lot of people watching this video have probably felt something like that before. The boss is happy when you make money for the company, but the moment you ask for a raise, suddenly you become a problem. Hollywood loves sexy women as long as they do not ask what they are worth. They loved Chrissy Snow because she was cute, carefree, and never demanded anything. But the real Suzanne Somers understood very clearly who was making money for whom. And that made the room uncomfortable. After Three's Company, Suzanne no longer had a straight path to becoming the sitcom queen of that era. Her relationships with the cast were strained for years. Mainstream Hollywood also cooled toward her. But this is not the story of a woman getting crushed and then disappearing. Suzanne rebuilt herself. She became an author, a businesswoman, the face of Thigh Master, and then returned to TV with Step by Step. They took Chrissy Snow away from her, but they could not take away Suzanne Somers' survival instinct. And sometimes that is what lets a star outlive even her own role. Honestly, that is impressive. Number 8, Shannen Doherty. Shannen Doherty did not lose her career because she lacked talent. She lost too many years because of a label Hollywood loves putting on young women difficult. Just look at her record and you can see it. An actor is lucky to get one major show. Shannen had 2. First came Beverly Hills 90210, where Brenda Walsh made her an early 90s teen TV icon. Then came Charmed, where Prue Halliwell brought her back to the center of another hit series. That was not passing luck. That was proof that Shannen had real magnetism and knew how to stand in the middle of a big show. But instead of being remembered first as a TV powerhouse, she was remembered with the words, "bad girl." After 4 seasons, Shannen left Beverly Hills 90210. Back then, the media talked a lot about rumors of lateness backstage, conflict, a party lifestyle, and how difficult she was to work with. Maybe Shannen was not completely innocent. She was young, got famous too fast, and later she herself did not deny that she had some reckless years. But the problem is that the label quickly became the whole story. The 90s loved rebellious girls on screen, but in real life, if a young woman was truly rebellious, they did not call it personality. They called it a problem. Charmed should have been the perfect reset. She was no longer teenage Brenda. Prue was a more grown-up, stronger role, and in the first 3 seasons, Shannen was a huge part of the show's weight. But after season 3, she left the show amid backstage tension. Years later, Shannen and Holly Marie Combs said she was pushed out of Charmed because of tension with Alyssa Milano. Milano denied that she caused Shannen to be fired. What feels unfair here is that Shannen was not someone without a career. She still worked, still appeared, still remained in the audience's memory. But she was robbed of many years she could have used to build a bigger legacy. She had 90,210. She had Charmed. She had Heathers too. Those pieces should have been enough for people to talk about her talent before talking about her temper. In the final years of her life, when Shannen publicly fought breast cancer, people finally became gentler with her again. She died in 2024 at age 53. And right after this sad story, we are moving to number 7, who is also the first man on today's list. Number 7, David Caruso. David Caruso did not leave a dying show. He left NYPD Blue. That is what makes this story worth talking about. When the series premiered in 1993, it was not some safe police drama for the whole family. It was sharp, adult, rough, and controversial in that very early 90s American television way. The role of John Kelly made Caruso a true breakout star. In 1994, he won a Golden Globe and was nominated for an Emmy for a TV actor that was almost a perfect launchpad. Then he wanted more. After the first season, the press reported that Caruso asked for about $100,000 per episode to continue nearly 3 times his old salary. In the end, he left the show early in season 2 to pursue movies. The producers had to throw out many episodes that had already been written, and Jimmy Smits was brought in to replace him. Put simply, Caruso was sitting on a train that was speeding up, then stepped off because he thought there was a bigger train out there. But this is not something to mock. Everybody has dreams. Any man who has ever left a stable job to try something bigger will understand Caruso no matter how painful his result was. His mistake was not wanting to move up. His mistake was believing movie stardom would open its doors as easily as TV stardom. After NYPD Blue, he starred in Kiss of Death and Jade. Neither one turned him into the movie star people expected. And that is the cold lesson TV gave Caruso time. Movies did not. On TV, the audience meets you every week, gets used to your eyes, your voice, even your silence. In theaters, you have one opening weekend to prove you are worth the ticket price. Caruso later came back very strongly with CSI Miami in 2002. Horatio Caine, sunglasses, one-liners, all of it became pop culture. But that is a different legend, one that leans a little more toward meme than prestige. David Caruso does not deserve to be remembered as a greedy man who abandoned a show. He deserves to be remembered as someone who bet too early on a dream that was too big. His mistake was not wanting more. His mistake was believing Hollywood would wait for him to land. Number 6, Jaleel White. Can you believe it? Jaleel White could have become a legend not because he played a bad role. He got trapped because he played a role that was too famous. Just mention the name Steve Urkel, and a lot of people immediately hear that familiar nasal voice again. Did I do that? Big glasses, pants, pulled high, suspenders, strange walk. When Jaleel first played Urkel, he was only about 13. He came in as a side character, then became the soul of the entire sitcom. That is extremely rare. A small role that was supposed to get laughs for a few episodes turned into a 90s phenomenon. Kids copied Urkel's voice. Adults remembered Urkel's catchphrase, and little by little many people stopped saying Jaleel White from Family Matters. They just said Urkel. That was a huge gift, but it was also a huge trap. Because Urkel was too recognizable. Everything was too specific. The voice, the clothes, the glasses, the way he stood, the way he talked. A regular actor can move from one role to another, but Jaleel had to walk out of a character that the whole country had nailed into its head. What is worth saying is that the role did not just affect his career, it also affected his body. Jaleel later said that having to keep Urkel's high nasal voice for a long time right when he was going through puberty damaged his real voice for years. That detail sounds strange at first, but it is painful. A sitcom role made all of America laugh while the boy inside had to pay for it with his own voice. And as Jaleel grew up, the problem became even clearer. He matured, but Urkel was not allowed to mature. That character still had to stay nerdy, awkward, and strange like he had been on day one. In later seasons, Urkel's wardrobe even had to be adjusted because Jaleel's body was no longer the body of a 13-year-old boy. After Family Matters ended in 1998, Jaleel still worked. He acted, did voice work, appeared on television, and wrote a memoir. He did not disappear. But he also did not become a sitcom legend on the path Urkel once seemed to open for him. That role always walked into the room before he did. And if you are still watching at this point, that means we have just gone through the first half of the list. Give this video a like if these old TV stories are pulling you back to the exact time when you used to sit in front of the screen, because from here on, the final 5 names are even more heartbreaking. Number 5, Shelley Long. Shelley Long was not fired, was not swallowed up by scandal, and did not disappear overnight. She simply left Cheers too soon. And sometimes that is the kind of regret that bothers you the most. In the first 5 seasons of Cheers, Diane Chambers was not a side character. She was one half of Sam and Diane, the relationship that gave this sitcom its own heartbeat. And then with the role of Diane, Shelley won an Emmy in 1983 and 2 Golden Globes. That was the momentum of a real sitcom queen. The creators of Cheers later even said they panicked when Shelley left the show. Ted Danson also looked back and admitted Shelley played a huge role in putting Cheers on the TV map. In other words, Shelley did not leave just any seat. She left a central spot in a sitcom that was growing into a legend. In 1987, after 5 seasons, Shelley left Cheers. The reason is not hard to understand. She wanted to pursue movies and spend more time with her daughter. And to be fair, at the time, that decision was not crazy at all. She had already done a few notable films. Hollywood was still opening its doors, and if a TV actor sees a chance to move to the big screen, who can say for sure they would not try? But a career can be very cold and harsh too. The films that followed did not turn Shelley into the major movie star people expected. Troop Beverly Hills later found people who loved it, but it did not make her a top movie name. Meanwhile, Cheers kept going strong, brought in Kirstie Alley, and eventually became one of the greatest sitcoms in American history. Shelley Long did not lose everything. She is still remembered, she still had a career, and Diane Chambers is still a wonderful role. But she left the exact room where all of America knew her name, and that is the saddest part. Not every wrong decision comes from arrogance. Sometimes it comes from a very normal wish to try something new, live closer to family, and not stay trapped forever in the same role. But for Shelley Long, the place she walked away from may have been the very place strong enough to make her immortal. Number 4, Katherine Heigl. Katherine Heigl once had everything Hollywood says it wants: beauty ratings, an Emmy, and a hit movie. Then she opened her mouth and Hollywood changed its tone right away. She was not some small star trying to get attention. Heigl was Izzy Stevens on Grey's Anatomy, one of the biggest dramas on American TV at the time. In 2007, she won an Emmy. At the same time, Knocked Up and 27 Dresses put her on the road to becoming a movie-leading lady. At that point, she seemed to be standing exactly where so many TV actresses dream of standing: 1 foot in a hit TV show, 1 foot in Hollywood movie stardom. But then the story changed direction very quickly. In an interview with Vanity Fair, Heigl called Knocked Up a little sexist. She said, "The movie made women look uptight and humorless, while the men came off more lovable." Honestly, looking back many years later, that comment was not exactly unreasonable. But Hollywood does not like hearing an actress criticize the movie that just helped make her a movie star. Hollywood likes outspoken women in interviews as long as they are only outspoken about harmless things. Then came the Emmy situation in 2008. After winning the year before, Heigl did not submit her name for Emmy consideration. The reason she gave was that she did not feel she had been given enough material that season to deserve a nomination. That comment was seen as a slap at the Grey's Anatomy writing staff. Later, she explained that she did not turn down a nomination because the nomination did not exist yet. She simply did not submit her name. But by then, the damage had been done. From there, the label difficult started sticking to her. Maybe Heigl said it clumsily, maybe she picked the wrong time, maybe she was not careful enough while standing between two huge machines, a hit TV show and box office movies. But the question is still worth asking: if a male actor won an Emmy and then complained about the writing, would people call him difficult, or would they call him an artist with high standards? After that, Heigl's momentum slowed down. She left Grey's Anatomy in 2010. Some of the rom-coms that followed did not keep the heat people expected. She still worked, still came back to TV, and still had notable projects. But the path toward becoming one of the biggest female stars of her generation had been bent out of shape. Katherine Heigl may have said things the wrong way at the wrong time, and maybe with the wrong strategy too. But it is very hard to look back at this story and not see one thing: Hollywood did not just punish her for a few comments. They punished her because she dared to say them at the exact moment when she was supposed to just smile and be grateful. Number 3, Kristy McNichol. Kristy McNichol won 2 Emmys before many people her age had even graduated high school. It sounds like a Hollywood dream until you remember she was still just a child. When Family premiered in 1976, Kristy was only 14. She played Buddy Lawrence, and this was not some cute sitcom role where she only had to laugh at the right time. Family was a serious primetime drama where a young actor had to handle very adult emotions in front of millions of American viewers every week. Kristy could do it, not through scandal, not through tricks, through real talent. The television industry saw that very quickly. Kristy won 2 Emmys for playing Buddy when she was still very young. That was not normal. Being loved by the audience is one thing. Being recognized by the industry at that age is something else entirely. After Family, she went on to films like Little Darlings, Only When I Laugh, the Pirate Movie, and White Dog. She had TV credibility, movie potential, and the kind of face Hollywood at the time loved putting on posters. From the outside, Kristy McNichol had everything she needed to become a lasting screen legend. But this is where the story starts to become much more worth thinking about. We usually look at child stars through achievements, Emmys, hit movies, magazines, fame. Adults look at them and say, "This kid is so mature." But a lot of the time, that is not maturity. That is a child learning how to live under adult pressure way too early. Hollywood likes calling a child an old soul when the kid can act well. Sometimes that is just a prettier way of making a child carry grown-up pressure. And honestly, looking back many years later, I am not sure this was really the beautiful dream people used to advertise. The audience saw success. A child inside that system may have only felt like she was trying to breathe. A lot of people feel sorry that Kristy McNichol did not become an even bigger legend, but I am not sure I feel sorry in that way. Because the more I read about her life, the more I get the sense that Kristy did not really leave Hollywood because she ran out of talent. She left because maybe she understood something that a lot of famous people spend their whole lives trying to learn: fame and happiness do not always go together. In 1988, Kristy returned to TV with Empty Nest, the spin-off of The Golden Girls, playing Barbara Weston. This could have been the phase that helped her settle in again as an adult sitcom star. But in 1992, she left the show. Later, Kristy said the reason was manic depression today, usually called bipolar disorder. Now, hearing that, it may not feel so unfamiliar anymore. But the early 90s were a completely different time. Mental health was almost never discussed publicly the way it is today. An actor leaving a show because of psychological issues could very easily be seen as unstable, hard to work with, or simply not able to handle the pressure. And this is what makes Kristy's story very different from many people on this list. She did not crash downward through a loud scandal. No addiction in front of the cameras, no tabloid headlines every week. She simply stepped out of the spotlight little by little. In 2001, she officially announced her retirement from acting. After that, she lived more privately, taught acting, did charity work, and in 2012 publicly came out to help young people being bullied because they were different. Hollywood teaches us to think that disappearing from the screen is failure, but sometimes for some people that is the first time they get to live normally. And honestly, if you were Kristy McNichol, what would you choose? 20 more years of fame, more money, more posters in magazines, but continuing to live under pressure from the time you were a teenager, or stepping out of the game early enough to finally still recognize who you are? Kristy McNichol may not have become the screen legend Hollywood once promised, but in an industry that is very good at draining talented children dry and calling it a dream, the fact that she walked away and kept her peace may be a kind of victory too. And if you think the price of young fame was already heavy enough, the next name is even more painful. Because this time, all of America watched a young star fall apart almost right in front of them. Number 2, Amanda Bynes. If Kristy McNichol was someone who got out of Hollywood before it took too much more, then Amanda Bynes is the other side of the story. She grew up in a time when the lights never really turned off. It was not just studio cameras. There were also paparazzi gossip websites, Twitter, and millions of people ready to click every time a child star slipped. Amanda was born in 1986, and this year she is 40. She became famous very early on Nickelodeon, first through All That Then, The Amanda Show. At 13, she already had a show with her own name on it. After Nickelodeon, she seemed to be doing what many child stars cannot do, moving into the adult world. What a Girl Wants. She's the Man Hairspray. Then Easy A. By 2010, she was still appearing in a successful movie, still young, still recognizable, and still had a path toward becoming one of the major female comedy stars of her generation. And then also, in 2010, Amanda announced her retirement from acting on Twitter when she was only 24. From there, the story shifted very quickly into a different color legal, trouble, unstable public appearances, strange tweets, a psychiatric hold in 2013, then many years living under a conservatorship. We do not need to list every detail like reading through a gossip file. The point is that none of it happened in silence. It happened almost in front of the public. Hollywood had already exhausted child stars. The internet made the whole world watch it happen in real time. And here's the most uncomfortable part. Many people knew she was hurting, but still treated it like a strange show. Every messy photo, every unstable tweet, every new headline was passed around as entertainment. The public said she's out of control, but still clicked to watch. At some point, we were not just the audience for Amanda Bynes' talent, we were also the audience for her fall. Later, Amanda told Paper Magazine that she started using marijuana at 16, then tried other substances and fell into a period of stimulant abuse. She also said seeing herself in She's the Man, where she had to play a male character, sent her into a very bad feeling about her own appearance. Those details are not there to excuse every wrong choice, but they remind us that behind the loud headlines is a real person, not a character for the internet to throw stones at for fun. If it were you, famous from your teenage years with money, an audience, all of America watching, but no longer feeling like you could control your own life, would you keep acting or run away? Amanda Bynes could have become one of the biggest female comedy stars of her generation, not because we are romanticizing the past, because the proof was already on screen. She had talent, comic timing, an audience, and a bridge from Nickelodeon to Hollywood. Her conservatorship ended in 2022. In recent years, Amanda has tried to live more privately studied fashion at one point and seems to be finding her way back toward a more normal life. That is not a flashy comeback, but maybe for people who grew up among cameras, simply living more peacefully is already something worth being glad about. And if Amanda is the story of a child star breaking down in the internet age, then the final name takes us back to a more classic TV era where a little boy became the catchphrase of the entire country, then had to live the rest of his life under a shadow too large for him to escape. Number 1, Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman was once the little boy who made all of America laugh with one line, but the most painful part is this: America never really let that little boy grow up. When Different Strokes premiered in 1978, Gary was only 10. He played Arnold Jackson, the small, sharp little boy with wide eyes who always had the perfect line to make every living room laugh. "What you talking about, Willis?" That line was not just a catchphrase, it became a piece of American TV. Some actors become famous because of a show. Gary Coleman practically became the face of the show, and his peak was truly huge. Different Strokes ran for 8 seasons. Gary won People's Choice Awards 4 years in a row. At his hottest point, he earned around $100,000 per episode and was considered one of the most powerful child actors on American television. A 10-year-old boy was practically carrying an entire sitcom on his shoulders. It sounds like a dream. But for Gary, that dream had claws. He had kidney disease from childhood. The treatments affected his body and his height, making him keep a childlike appearance longer than usual. On TV, that made Arnold cuter, more different, impossible to confuse with anyone else. But as Gary grew up, the very thing that had helped make him a phenomenon became a cage. The audience still wanted to see Arnold. Hollywood still wanted to sell the image of Arnold. But Gary Coleman in real life could not stay a 10-year-old boy forever. After Different Strokes ended, he could not find a grown-up role big enough to escape that shadow. There were guest roles, small projects, TV appearances, but no new path that matched the old fame. TV was very good at turning Gary into an icon, but it did not know how to help him live after that icon outgrew its age. Then came the money. Gary had once earned a huge amount, but as an adult, he had to sue his adoptive parents and former advisor over accusations that his money had been mismanaged. In 1993, he won a judgment of $1.28 million. That detail says a lot. A child can earn $100,000 per episode. But if the adults around him do not protect him, that money is no longer freedom. It is only something someone else controls. In later years, the public often remembered Gary through financial, legal, and health problems. At one point, he worked as a security guard. The media liked telling his story as a former child star in trouble, but that telling is too easy. The real story is much harder to swallow. When he was little, he made all of America laugh. When he grew up, many people laughed at his life itself. Gary Coleman died in 2010 at age 42 after a fall that led to a head injury and a brain hemorrhage. He died young, but he had lived far too long under the shadow of his own childhood. And if today's list has one lesson, maybe it is this: sometimes Hollywood does not destroy a star by abandoning them. Sometimes it destroys them by loving them too early, too much, and in all the wrong ways. Everybody wants to become a legend, but looking back at today's 10 stories, maybe the most painful thing is not never reaching the top. The most painful thing is standing very close already, having the role the audience, the lights, a whole road opening up in front of you, and then everything breaks right when success seems about to happen. So what do you think? Who on this list makes you feel the most regret? Who was treated too coldly by Hollywood? And who, in your opinion, still deserves to be called a legend? What do these stories say about Hollywood? That this industry creates dreams, but it can also crush the person living inside that dream. That sometimes a defining role is a gift. Sometimes it is a shadow that is too big. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do not be afraid to debate as long as we keep it fair and kind. I truly want to read who you remember, who you feel sorry for, and which story you want us to do next. And do not forget to subscribe to Weird Movie Secrets so we can go back together to the secrets, regrets, and hidden corners of old Hollywood.